This is an RNZ podcast.
Back in July last year, Hawke's Bay Today newspaper revealed that close to $3 million that was seized as proceeds of crime was to be used for a new marae-based rehabilitation initiative called Kahukura. Now, this was to be run by Hard to Reach, a consultancy that was founded by Mongrel Mob Honorary Life member Harry Tam, and mob members in Hawke's Bay would be key leaders of the program. And the goal of it was to reduce crime and harm from methamphetamine dependency, especially amongst gang members, which other rehab programs had found especially hard to engage. And the wisdom of funding rehab via gang-run schemes was a hot topic on the media for quite a while.
Why can they give the Mongrel Mob $2.7 million and not blink an eye? They don't want to know about us when we have problems in the South Island like the flooding and that. What did they get down there? Peanuts.
There was a South Otago farmer at a groundswell protest at the time who reacted badly to those revelations in July last year. Now, it turned out it was actually the Health Ministry which had applied for the funding for the scheme, but at the time, opposition political parties claimed the government was funding gangs.
Who signed off $2.75 million to the Mongrel Mob in Hawke's Bay to run a meth rehabilitation program when, you know, the money's going straight out the back door to run their meth production units all the way through the Hawke's Bay?
That was National Party police spokesperson Mark Mitchell last year, after which his colleague Simeon Brown MP said he'd draft a bill to ensure no public money would ever be handed to any gang. Now, at that point, the Prime Minister was happy to point out that all this was based on a program that was given a green light when National was in power in the late 2000s.
A methamphetamine program that is currently being supported. That program is based on a program that has been around since 2010, which the then national government was happy to support. I see this as politics.
The Haora initiative ran from 2009 to 2017, run by the notorious chapter leadership of the Mongrel Mob and the Salvation Army. An independent evaluation of it in 2016 found significantly reduced drug use among the participants across all those years. But last week, Stuff papers up and down the country ran a story in which Hawke's Bay reporter Marty Sharp reported that papers released under the OIA showed that the current Kahukura program still hasn't had its effectiveness evaluated. And the story also said a Ministry of Justice assessment this year found that 2/3 of those who'd completed the program reported back that they still used methamphetamine, although most said they used less than before. Marty Sharp also reported for Stuff anecdotal and self-reported evidence of reduced methamphetamine use and increased employment. 1/3 of participants reported no use of meth at all in the 6 to 12 months since the program, and 2/3 reported better health, and 10 out of 22 unemployed participants had since found work. And also, there were no suicides among participants. Now, the interim director of addictions at Te Whatu Ora, Health New Zealand, Peter Calder, then told Stuff these were early indicators of positive results for the program. And when rival paper Hawke's Bay Today picked up the story, it began like this.
The gang-based healing project has passed the halfway stage with some positive indicators, despite some participants admitting they had used methamphetamine since graduating from their 10-week course.
And it was that last bit that got the media's attention elsewhere. Heather Duplessis-Allen on News Talk ZB, for example, told her listeners this.
The Mongrel Mob P program in the Hawke's Bay that the government gave $2.75 million to isn't working. What a surprise. It's been running for a year. They've had 22 people complete the program in the first 2 intakes. 2/3 of those people say that they're still using P.
But had she not seen those positive stats reported in those news stories?
I mean, the good news is most of them say they're using less P than they used to, but, you know, they're still using P. That's a twist no one saw coming, is it? The program didn't work.
However, relapsing doesn't necessarily mean a rehabilitation program has failed its participants or was a failure itself. Indeed, the 2016 evaluation of the Salvation Army Mongrel Mob Joint Program Haora made that pretty clear. Now, this week, Harry Tam put out a statement slamming inaccurate and misleading reporting of Kahukura, in which he said this.
The remaining Kahukura graduates who have not yet won their battle against methamphetamine should not be seen as failures by those uninterested in the complexities of addiction.
But given the evident public and political concern about the proceeds of crime funding gang-run drug rehab programs, isn't it fair enough for media to report on those results?
Our concern was the headline in particular, where it highlighted 2/3 of the whai ora had used meth. Now, anyone that knows anything about rehab, having 1/3 that has not relapsed is probably, an outcome that it's better than conventional rehabs. If you can achieve 1/3 of your client group not relapsing, that's a remarkable result, and the research supports that. And also having 100% graduation rate. And again, there aren't too many rehabs that can boast that. The headline, while it's factually correct, is what it implies. And you can see that implication has had its desired effect. And like you say, other media have picked it up and have jumped to that conclusion that it wasn't working. By all means, that most of the article was factually correct. However, the headline was mischievous in the way that the article didn't provide context.
Interestingly, when the story went in the actual Stuff papers in print, the headline was more about that the program had yet to be fully evaluated. Now, when there was the first controversy that got all kind of party political about the way this was being funded, that point was made. Look, don't be concerned, about the misuse of public money. There will be accountability and so on. So if a reporter does use the OIA and find out there are some preliminary, self-reported results for evaluation, isn't that fair enough that the media should do that?
Yes, the evaluation thing is important, but it conveys it was the ministries that was raising that issue. And the fact is, when he got those reports, they were reports from us, from H2R Research and Consulting Limited. And we were frustrated that the ministry hadn't engaged an evaluator to evaluate the program. But again, I don't think it was reported as accurately as it should have been, because our reports that we're obliged to give to the proceeds of crime people, and it was in those reports that we continually asked the ministry to get on with the evaluation. Because what originally happened was the evaluation component was actually part of the contract that was budgeted for us to engage an evaluator. But because of the political furore that took place at the time, the ministry took that budget off us and said they will facilitate the evaluation. Of course, they haven't. They haven't done that as quickly as they should have done. At least now they do have a evaluator that they've engaged, but it doesn't look like that evaluation is going to be complete until 2 years later. Of course, our program finishes next year.
So is your concern then that the only reports the public will get about the relative success of or failure of the program will be the preliminary sort of findings that you yourself at Hard to Reach have had to engage? It's only that people will see via reports like this when journalists inquire and then publish the results that people are going to read before it comes to an end.
Yeah, not only did we report that issue in our normal reporting process, so we've done all we can to try and get that evaluation underway as early as possible. And it's unfortunate that the ministry basically dragged the chain on it. But there is a new management regime in there now, and they now have an evaluator that they've contracted to do the evaluation.
But, I suppose, would you accept, though, that for members of the public who are interested in this, they might have heard about the controversy a year ago, being uncomfortable with the idea of proceeds of crime then going to a gang-led program, if they'd have a public interest, a legitimate public interest in journalists inquiring into whatever results there are about, the success of or failure of the program.
Well, I think that's absolutely important, but please convey it in a way that it actually reflects the reality of it. Having 2/3 that have relapsed in a drug rehab, particularly with meth, is not a bad result, but to convey it in a way without providing any context to the reader, it would suggest that it's failing, right? So unless you actually know what the research is around relapse and drug rehabilitation, you'd think, 2/3 is not a good outcome. The other thing is that you've got to remember that our program is only an 8-week residential program, and we have an 8-week follow-up. Other programs, they run anywhere between 8 to 12 months. So ours is like, in terms of value for money, if we can get those results, and if we can substantiate that with an evaluation, I think we're doing really, really well.
That's Harry Tam, Mongrel Mob Life member and the boss of Hard to Reach, the outfit overseeing the Kahukura drug rehabilitation program, which uses the proceeds of crime to rehabilitate drug associates with addictions, and which re-emerged in the news, as we heard there, last week.